Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about the Fox Experiment, which is a relatively brand new game from Pandasaurus Games and was designed, well, one of the designers is Elizabeth Hargrave, who you may have heard from the small little hit Wingspan. Well, in the Fox Experiment, you are going to be, over a number of generations, trying to breed the friendliest foxes with the cutest barks and the floppiest ears. That literally is the aim of the game, as you are taking foxes and breeding, hopefully, friendly traits. And once you've bred them in one generation, they're going to be available for breeding in the next generation. Let's go roughly through how the game plays. I'll give you sort of some highlights of how it works. Not the extensive details, but then we'll go through my thoughts and feelings, try to give you an idea if the game is going to be for you. And just know that it was provided to me by Pandasaurus for the review. In the first phase of the game, you're given 3 options, and you can do them in any order. You can take a male fox, take a female fox from the various markets, or you can choose your turn order, which is going to be quite helpful. But the earlier you go, normally the less bonus you get with it. In fact, there's actually a first place spot that has no bonus, but you're guaranteed first place. Once everyone has done those 3 actions, and you can only do each of them once, you can't choose 2 male foxes or go on the turn order track twice. Once you've done the 3, well, it's then time to go and breed these foxes. At the start of the game, you're only going to be breeding 1 pup around, but you can unlock later on the ability to make 2 or even 3 pups around. Now, making more is quite helpful, but isn't guaranteeing you additional stuff. But you're going to re-roll all your dice for each, so lots of dice rolling. So how does that even work? Well, you look at the mother and the father fox that you've just selected, and they're going to show you some dice. Maybe the mother one has some purple dice on it, and the father one, well, they've got some another purple, but also one of the sort of pinky red dice. Well, you take those from the middle, and you get ready, and you roll them. You've also got access to one of the green dice, which are wild, and again, you can unlock more wild dice. They're going to be quite useful for filling out your traits. You're going to be filling them out on a pup card, so you draw one of those, and these are wipeable boards that you're going to be using a marker pen, which does rub out, thankfully, and you're going to be marking down on that what you've rolled. So these dice have one symbol, maybe 1.5, or a half, or a blank, and you're going to be putting them together in ways that creates a number of, say, bark symbols, and then you're going to dot on how many of those you've got onto the pup. The more dots you've put onto a pup, the friendlier it is, and there's an award for having the friendliest pup each round. Also, the more dots it's got, it's probably going to be unlocking you these nice little bonus tokens, which you can trade in to unlock stuff. For instance, at the start, you could trade 2 identical of those tokens in to get a new wild dice for the next round. Well, that's pretty helpful. Or later on, maybe it's to unlock the ability to make a second pup. You're also going to be dotting them from left to right, and those cards have squares, not just the circles, which give you those bonus tokens. The squares are the dice that that pup is going to award if it's been used in the next round. Because once you've done all of that scoring from your pup, you've worked out who's the friendliest, those pups get put into the middle market for the next generation, with the mother and father fox that you used just sort of discarded off to the side. And of course, the very important part is you always have to name your pup, because otherwise how are you going to know which one was yours when you look at them in the next round? And you can be as sort of creative or as uncreative with those names as you like. The pups that you create are also going to be helping you towards studies. Each pup you make can help you on one section of a study each round. So if you're making 2 pups, you can either move up the same study twice potentially, or 2 different ones one step. These are basically little sort of objectives and say, right, I need this pup to have sort of 2 or 3 dots on it of barking and 2 spots. Okay. Then it's got that, I can put one of my tokens on to say I've done that part of the study, and that's going to get me points at the end of the game. Like with many things, there's ways to get more of those study cards by trading in tokens for unlocks from your player board. The game goes for 5 rounds and you're slowly upgrading your player board, unlocking the abilities such as more wild dice, maybe getting more of those studies or being able to make more pups, or some endgame scoring opportunities, which sometimes it's like, right, you need so many of this colour token unlocked wise on your player board. And different things like that, they're going to get you points at the end of the game. You'll also have got points during the game for the friendliest foxes and your studies, etc. And all of that adds up to create the Fox experiment and give the winner being whoever's got the most points. So let's start off with the production quality. There's a few really good standout parts here. First of all, the Fox meeples that everyone's got, they are pretty fun and awesome, but they pale in comparison to the pup cards that have those wipeable sort of cards. It feels slightly wrong, but feels slightly great when you're literally writing on a card this pup's name, and then you're putting its like attributes on, and then that's put into the market, and you might get it back in the next round, or someone else might get that pup in the next round. But there's something about actually writing on those cards that it feels like you are making something for that next round, and that component really drags into what is one of my favourite parts of the game. We'll certainly touch on that in a second. But production-wise, it's a pretty cool one, and you're rolling so many dice, and they're good, very easy to read and sort of see dice. Once you've rolled them, it's never a case of, oh, is that one, is that half? It's very easy and obvious to go, that's half a symbol, that's a whole symbol. Right, that's how many attribute dots I've got for barks, etc. You may have guessed from when I was talking through that there's a few parts of this game that I've really enjoyed. First of all, it starts in the very start of the game, in Phase 1, the turn order track. Now, turn orders can be done in fun ways and not so fun ways, and this one in the Fox experiment is one of the best ways because it gives you bonuses. Or it's giving you like no bonus, but you're guaranteeing yourself first place. And there's a real conundrum there because it's like, oh, that's a really great bonus, but I'm probably going to be 3rd out of 4 players. So then in the next round, when it comes to drafting or choosing one of those male or female foxes, maybe some of the good ones are gone. And there's some really great choices there because the bonuses are often just enough. They're just enough to incentivize you to go, oh, if I get that, I can unlock a wild dice. That's great for me, just ongoing. But then I'm quite far down in turn order. Ooh, choices. And that's an absolutely fantastic part of the game. The second one, as I alluded to with the production part, is the fact that the thing you make from one round goes into the next round. But in a different way than you'd expect. If another player around the table makes a fantastic fox, well, you might be the one that takes that fox in the next round and it gives you loads of dice. So normally games like this, you'd be building up and it's giving you stuff in the next round. It's better for you. But no, it's just making the stuff in the market better, whether you get it or not. And at times it's like, I made this fantastic fox. It's absolutely brilliant. It is, however, going to give someone a load of dice next round, and I'm really low in the turn order. But I'm getting some points for the friendliness. I've hopefully unlocked a load of some tokens to trade in to upgrade my player board. So hopefully it'll work out for you. But it's an interesting one where normally in games you are upgrading and what you do impacts your next round. Whereas in the Fox experiment, you could be upgrading a card that someone else is going to use in the next round to breed with. And that's quite different. I don't know many other games that do that, and I really like that because it just feels like it's harder to run away with a victory because if you do really well, someone else might benefit from it. Or you've gone out of your way to get first player marker like for the next round so you can take your one back. And then there's some cool ability cards that you can get which maybe allows you to hold on to one of your pups to the next round. Whoa, it feels huge and it's worth a point. So some great sort of aspects just from that building up of a pup and then it being in the market in the next round. It really just feels like everyone's having an input on round 2 from the very first round when everyone's made one pup and they're now in the market. It's just a really cool feature. Theme-wise, it's an interesting one because actually I've not really heard of this Fox experiment, but it kind of makes sort of sense. It's got that evolution, sort of breeding them sort of over generations, and you pick the friendliest ones and you hope you get a friendlier fox as a result, and apparently that's what the Fox experiment was all about, and it kind of does feel like that. It does feel like over time, well, if you're slowly like maybe your study wants them to have really floppy ears and you're making each generation, you're probably creating some foxes with floppier ears, which means that next time that one's going to give loads of those dice types out, and then you're doing it again in the next round, and it kind of just feels like they are gradually getting friendlier and friendlier as the generations go on, so it ramps up in terms of the number of dice you're using, but it feels thematically like you are going through the generations because they pop back up. Oh, we bred that fox last round and it's now one of the mothers or fathers, and it just feels like a very weird theme that's very unique. That's certainly something you can say. It's a unique theme and it works. Unfortunately, it's not all sunshine and foxes in this, because while you can play the Fox experiment at 2, I'm not sure it's one that I would I wouldn't gravitate to it to get it off the shelf at 2. And that's because it flows better at 3 and 4 players. With 3 and 4 players, you've got sort of the full player count, the full experience. Whereas at 2, the game actually needs sort of an AI just to help the game along. For example, in the first phase, it's going to be flipping a card to work out what it's taking, and I get it, it's useful because it means the markets and everything in a 2-player game feel like they're being a bit more used. I'm not a huge fan of having to do that as an AI thing. It's not actually that big. Like, it's like 2 pages in a very long rulebook. AI of like a deck to sort of simulate, almost effectively simulate a third player, to me just takes some of the enjoyment out of it when a third player makes the game feel more complete. An interesting thing is that the game has a rulebook that is 35 pages long. Now, it's full of examples, example pictures, example text, but 35 pages still feels like a game that should be insanely hard. But actually, first of all, take a couple of pages out for the 2-player mode, a few pages out for the solo mode, but it's still 35 pages long. Apart from maybe specific stuff about setup or something like that, that sort of stuff, I could easily teach this game. So it feels like the rulebook almost over-eggs how complicated the game could be. But I do love the fact that it's got so many examples and stuff in there, from scorings to like where you're placing certain things. I really like that. It just sort of, when you open the box and you're like, whoa, it's a thick, long rulebook. Actually, it's not that bad. And like I say, it's quite impressive, I'd say, for a game like this, that I think even after maybe like 1 play, I think I could have done, I could have taught the game like 90% of the game. And now I think I could probably, I'd still want to check a few rules, but, I'm at 90-95% of the rules, just off the top of my head. I'm impressed that a game can do this. Are you going to like the Fox experiment if you don't like dice? Well, I'm not a huge fan of dice in terms of sometimes I find them so lucky. But actually, I never felt like I was getting really screwed over in the Fox experiment. First of all, you're rolling a lot of them. Second of all, you've got wild tokens and wild dice. And I think that's just enough sort of manipulation and bad luck mitigation that it doesn't matter. Because, oh, I've rolled quite badly on my ear dice and I need that for my study. Well, I can just put these two wild symbols together, or this wild symbol and this half an ear symbol, and it works. And I think it's more a case of once you've rolled, you'll then use sort of that you've got the choice of how to use your wilds. And I like that because it's very rarely did anyone round the table when we've played feel like, oh, this roll has been awful. Often it was like, whoa, this has gone great, or okay, it's gone good. It never sort of, I think maybe because of the two levels of wild, the tokens and the dice, it just feels like you're always able to do something, and then it's your choice of how you use those somethings, rather than sort of, I can't do anything. It's almost like the luck is there to give you a great roll, but it will never give you less than like a good roll. And I like that. More dice games should be like that. Let a dice be really good for me, or just good, rather than bad or good. Seems like a better swing for me, at least. So, even though I don't like dice, normally, I liked them in the Fox experiment. And that's kind of where I sit here. I went into the Fox experiment sort of expecting a game full of dice and full of foxes. And I certainly wasn't disappointed on either of those. There's loads of dice you're rolling. But often, like I say, you feel like there is at least a good roll, and hopefully it's going to be a great roll. I love the fact that those fox pups that you're making come back into the market in the next round. That's brilliant. It's not like they're shuffled into the deck and they might come out. They are in the market for the next round. Someone over there, they've made an amazing friendly fox. It's going to be available in the market to choose in the next round, probably giving loads of dice. That's pretty cool. And yeah, unique theme that actually is fairly well captured. Like I said, not a fan of the AI-ness at 2, but I understand why it's there. It just means that I wouldn't necessarily recommend this at 2 players. But as soon as you can get 3 or 4, the Fox experiment is easily worth a play and experimenting with. Anyway, hopefully this has helped you work out if you want to give this a go, if you want to have this in your collection. Maybe the Fox experiment is for you. Anyway, until next time, let us know if you've played the game in the comments section below. Let us know what you thought of it if you have. And have a foxy good day.